At Gaia Wisdom Sanctuary, we believe that God, Spirit, or universal energy, however we each define it personally, resides in all things, and that nature is our church, love is our commitment, and we each carve our own unique path to God. Our sanctuary weaves together the ideologies of Druidry, Celtic wisdom, Native American spirituality, and other life-affirming, soul-sustaining spiritual practices. We choose not to tell you what to believe, but instead strive to inspire you to deepen your soul path as you feel is right for you. Please visit our online school at GaiaWisdomSchool.org, or for more information about us, you can go to SacredSoulCenter.com. Or you can always join us live and in person each Sunday at 11 a.m. in our Sundance Teepee. We look forward to sharing community time with you, whether online or in person, wherever you might be in this beautiful world we call home. Welcome to Gaia Wisdom in this beautiful, wonderful, it's a absolutely gorgeous summer day. And it's a good day to be in here, to be doing this kind of a service. And today we're going to talk about the soul shaman archetype. But first we're going to do our smudging. And I'm actually going to let you smudge yourself while I call in the directions. We're going to call on the energies of the east direction for that space of clarity and for illumination, for the archetypes of the visionary and the eagle and the hawk. We thank you for being here. We call on the energy of the south direction, the energy of our sacred heart warrior, for the emotions and the intuition that we tap into as we learn about our soul shaman side today. We call on the energy of the west, the alchemist, and we ask for the energy of the snake and the phoenix to be here with us today, that energy of transformation. And we call in the energy of the north, of that buffalo and the bear, that place within us where we go into introspection to learn more about ourselves, to connect with our guides and our spiritual side. When we call on the energy of ourselves, our inner wisdom, our inner voice, our higher self to be here today. And we thank all these spirits and all these directions for being a part of this ceremony and this teaching today, this lodge service. We're going to do our opening song today, and this is not really a chant, but if you feel inclined to sing along, you may. And if not, just to read the songs and let them kind of settle in someplace within your heart chakra. With the background noise of Stella.
blossoms fall. You are becoming the song of your heart. How beautiful it is, how beautiful it is, as the flower blossoms fall. You are becoming the song of your heart. How beautiful it is, how beautiful it is, as the flower blossoms fall. Feel the earth in your toes. Oh my child, you'll never know
I love that song because it really speaks to being connected here on earth, as well as listening to God and hearing that voice within ourselves and that spiritual side of us. And we're talking about the soul shaman today, which is the archetype for the north direction. And when I was coming up with these different archetypes, I think I told you a couple weeks ago that I had actually done some journeying and really trying to find a way to incorporate like a personality to each direction, and I came up with these archetypes. I didn't come up with these archetypes. They were given to me through my spirit guides and the Akashic records and such. And the soul shaman is actually the one that I am, and I really resonated with it because when I started bringing together all the elements of the soul shaman, I started realizing, and it started making sense, a lot of the things that I've always believed or felt or am, and how I operate in this world. And it was kind of my confirmation that all of the archetypes that I was being given or shown was in many ways so accurate, because this so accurately described me in a way that I didn't even imagine being described. I felt like I was taking one of those online quizzes and had those aha moments when you realize that, this is what you are, and this is a little paragraph that tells you exactly your personality traits and how you operate in this world. And I was like, yes, that's me, that's me. So it probably more accurately described me than any other test I've taken, which kind of surprised me because it came from my own inner journey through, trying to decipher all these personalities. So I have an affinity towards the soul shaman, and I feel that I have worked hard all of my life to be as balanced of a soul shaman as I possibly can. And the soul shaman, these are the healers, these are the messengers in this earthly domain that we're in. And they're the mystics, the ones who are out there trying to bring people more into the fold of their spiritual life, and that they have devoted their life to their spiritual path in some way. These people are very highly connected to their spirit guides and to source and to their spiritual path in a way that others might not be overtly, but are in different ways. So like the visionary can be connected to their spiritual path because they're living their dream, they're living their ideas, they're putting action behind everything. The sacred heart warrior is connected because they're listening to their intuition and they're allowing those emotions to kind of fuel them or direct them. And the alchemist creates an environment that reflects their spiritual path. So all the archetypes are connected spiritually, but the soul shaman almost has like this conduit that runs between earth and heaven. There's like this direct line that goes between the three. And in shamanic terms, you've got the lower world, the middle world, and the upper world. And the tree represents that as well. You've got your roots down in the earth, you've got your trunk, which is in the middle world, and then you've got your branches in the upper world. And so the soul shaman is kind of representative of those three worlds and of that tree symbolism, because they are in every single world, in almost every single moment, if you're truly balanced. And so they really do become like the bridge between heaven and earth. And there's ways though that the soul shaman can come out of balance or be out of balance. And one way is that they are completely severed or disconnected from their spiritual life. They have no belief or strong stance on anything spiritually. You almost would want to put, some atheists can be, or agnostics can be, in an out of balance soul shaman. And then the other out of balance way that they become light polarized. So they're either completely disconnected, or they're so connected that that's everything that they revolve around. As far as they don't have their roots down here, they don't have themselves in the middle world, they have everything connected up here into the upper world. And we call that light polarization, where you can tell these people because you're talking to them, and they're so up here, you almost feel like you have to pull them down and, like, shake them and say, be here present with me right now. And I know that we all have people in our life that are like that, because I've got quite a few. Being in this field, I work with a lot of light workers, and you see that light polarization a lot, where they don't want to be here. They don't want to have this earthly experience. They can't wait to leave and go to the next lifetime, or they don't even want to come back in this lifetime most of the time. They want to just go and be in that ethereal body, to be in that spiritual place and be zenned out. And that's okay sometimes, but what happens is that when you are disconnected from this world, you miss all of the messages that God or Spirit or your guides are giving to you here and now. We all have chosen to come here and be in this earthly experience because Earth is a great school. Earth is where we can actually take a spiritual experience and translate it through emotions or through action or through a very third-dimensional characteristic that you can't when you're in fourth dimension or fifth dimension. So, when you are purely in spirit form, you can't taste chocolate. You can't feel the chocolate. You can't feel the effects of the chocolate. That's just one example. So we come here to Earth to truly learn and to experience and to really absorb a spiritual experience through a third-dimensional expression. So when you're light polarized, you don't necessarily allow yourself to have those experiences because you are so caught up in leaving here that you forget to be here. And you also tend to put yourself in a category that's different than everybody else. You feel like you are more connected. And I'm saying you as a general you, it's not to anybody in particular. But those who are light polarized, it's, I have a direct line to God, or I have something that you don't have. And there's a real danger in that, because when people are seeking a spiritual path, even for the first time, they're looking for people for guidance. And if they find somebody who is light polarized or who is a out of balance soul shaman, they're going to quickly be led to believe that they can't reach that nirvana like they can, that they are the conduit to God or to Spirit, and that you have to go through them. It sounds a lot like Christianity, actually, that you have to go through another being in order to access God, and that just isn't true. God is everywhere. We all have the same access to God or Spirit or to talking to our guides as anybody else. You can walk out into nature and all of us can have a different experience, but every experience is valid. It doesn't mean that somebody next to you has more presence than you do, or more authority, or more wisdom, or more anything. So the downfall of being a light polarized person, especially somebody who's also a healer, is they either inadvertently or they advertently strip people of their power. They'll say, I can heal you. I healed them. I am a healer. And these are all words that are used that strip somebody else of their power to do those things for themselves and put the power within you, so that you are the conduit. You are not going to be healthy unless you come to me. I am the one who is going to connect you to your spirit guide. I can tell you what your ancestors on the other side are speaking to you. I can relay the messages of God for you. I can. And it's all ego. That's where that light polarization takes all of this connection that they have to the spirit world and just dips it right into your ego, and your ego just inflates and becomes this out of control monster. And I see it a lot in this, in the people that I have worked with over the years who have come to retreats who are also in the healing fields. I hear that a lot. oh, I healed this woman the other day and I was so proud of myself, or I was in session and I heard her guides and her ancestors telling me what to do, and I healed her, and I did this and I did that. You know, when you're in session with somebody, and I've had this happen many times, where yes, their spirit guides do come through, their ancestors do come through, but I'm a conduit. I am a messenger. I always tell people I'm kind of like that, the telephone line. This is the receiver and this is the other person on the other receiver, and I'm just the conduit that relays the messenger. I'm just a messenger. I don't pick the message. I don't choose what to do with it. I allow myself to be guided. And so that kind of brings us back to, you know, what a balanced soul shaman is. It's somebody who is a healer, who is a messenger, who is a mystic, but doesn't use those labels to define their ego. They use those labels because that kind of encapsulates what they do. I allow for a healing space, for a healing presence to be where somebody can come in and they can tap into the power of their own healing abilities. I allow myself to be a conduit so that I can receive messages, that I can help guide somebody, but I also teach them how to get those messages on their own. You know, it's very important for everybody to tap into that soul shaman side of themselves, where they have the power, they have the ability, you have the power, you have the ability to speak and get messages for yourself and to decipher them for yourself. I can't tell you what a message means. Only you can decipher that for yourself, because we all have our own soul language, and we talked about that a few lodge services ago, about being able to translate our own messages for ourselves. And so a balanced soul shaman is also going to inspire you to be connected and to take back your power from everybody that you give it to. You know, there's a great service that mediums do and psychics do and, you know, healers do. But there's also a huge disservice when those same people, I believe, don't allow you to believe that you can do that on your own. That they lead you to believe that they are the only ones who can do that for you. We all have come from the same cloth. We are all, bred from the same spiritual source. So, in a balanced soul shaman sees that connection with everything, that we are all one, we are all connected, we are all a part of the great mystery. We all have access to that universal pool of information. And yeah, it might be easier for some people to tap into it than others, but it doesn't mean that anybody is not able to do that for themselves. Sometimes I will go to a medium because I feel like maybe I need to get out of the way. But I'll take what that medium says, and I'll take the messages, and I will filter them through my own heart, my own space, my own spiritual beliefs, and kind of glean from that the message or the token that I'm meant to take. I very rarely will seek advice of anybody. And I might ask for an opinion here or there to see if there's somebody sees something a little bit more objectively than I do. But for the most part, somebody giving me advice is going to fall on deaf ears for me, because I feel like I need to take that power for myself. I need to find my own messages, my own inner wisdom to kind of work through things. And so when you're in a balanced state of your soul shaman, and this is what we've talked about before with these archetypes, is that we may have one dominant archetype, but we tap into every single archetype, so that ultimately we come from that space within where we can pull from all of those directions whatever energy we need at any given time. So even if you're not dominantly a soul shaman, it's important for you to have that balanced side of the soul shaman, where you know beyond a shadow of a doubt what you believe and why you believe it. I've asked people before, who are coming into the spiritual path, what do you believe? And they have no idea. They have no idea what their beliefs really are. Or they come up with their beliefs and I say, why do you believe that? And they don't know why they believe it. They just, somebody told them, or they grew up with it, whatever the case might be. So really knowing what you believe, why you believe it, and the soul shaman, and we'll get into sacred purpose at a later time, but sacred purpose has 4 houses, and one of the houses is spirituality, which is where the soul shaman sits. And if you want to really fully engage yourself in this life, then you have your spiritual house in order. You have a balanced soul shaman where you have that direct line, that open channel to God or spirit or source. And you walk in this world with your feet rooted, but you have that channel open so that you can receive all those messages that you're getting. It's like you have your antenna attuned to your channel, not to everybody else's channel, but to your channel. And when you walk that way, and it becomes a way of life for you, then there's no need for you to take credit for what God has done. You're not going to be the healer that says, I healed somebody, when really it was God or spirit or source using you to do what was needed. So there's no need for you to take credit for what God does. You also have a very strong sense of who you are. And how that translates in the world is that you don't have a feeling of having to go out and change everybody else to believe what you believe, or to follow your path, or to subscribe to your ideologies, because they're yours. They're not anybody else's. And you don't, a balanced soul shaman doesn't have to translate for everybody else, doesn't have to evangelize, I can't ever say that word, evangelical size, anyway. They don't have to preach. They don't have to preach what everybody else should be believing. And you see that a lot in organized religion, and this is one of the reasons why I left organized religion, was that there was no room for me to believe what I felt in my heart was true for me. And as a soul shaman, that's very stifling. That's very, it puts me in a box. It puts me in somebody else's box. And for me to have been able to come into my power and to come into balance with who I believe God to be, I needed to strip myself of all those boxes and just stand in my own 2 feet in my own power and navigate my life, my spiritual life, in a way that made sense to me, not to everybody else. And so, when I'm looking at myself as being a balanced soul shaman, that's an important aspect of it. It's being able to walk your talk and not be, not feel that I have to have everybody else be on my bandwagon, but that I can, how I aspire to live might be an inspiration to other people, and it might not be. But that's irrelevant to my path, if that makes sense. And I talked about, the healing presence. And, for me, and especially in the work that I do, it's about creating that space that's sacred and it's safe, and it's a healing presence without judgment, without my agenda. And that opens it up for all kinds of things to happen, for the person who's with me, for their guides, for my guides, for God or universe or spirit, for angels, for the devas and the fairies and the nymphs, for whoever needs to be there to facilitate this space with me. And in that healing presence, I'm not healing anybody. I'm just creating the space around them so that they can tap into their own healing power and their own sense of power. And that is what changes that person more than anything. Not me. It's the healing presence that's been given to them. So, in my mind, I think that absolutely anybody in the world can be a healer, because if you learn how to create that healing space, you don't have to have any healing abilities. You just simply have a way of creating that sacred space for somebody, for the magic to happen for them. So, and sometimes years ago when I was working in Charleston in my office, there were times where I felt like I was getting paid too much for what I did, because what I did was, it felt very simple. It felt very simple to create that healing presence for people. And I wasn't doing anything more than that. I was just giving them the ability to be what they needed to be in that moment. And I've reconciled that since then, because energy is energy, and so there always has to be an even exchange. And I think that when you allow somebody to step into their power, that is an immense gift that you can give to anybody. And that is a lot about what Soul Shaman really is. It's about stepping into our power, into our spiritual power, and then being able to walk in this world, walk on this earth, and use all of it to bring it together for ourselves in this experience. So how do you become a balanced soul shaman? And part of that, a lot of it is taming the ego, and really knowing when your ego is getting in the way. When you're seeking the accolades of somebody and wanting them to be like, oh, you're great, you're wonderful, I could not have done this without you. Those are all words that feel really good, but they also feed that seed of the ego inside of us that says, oh, well, maybe I'm more than what maybe I am the one that healed them, or maybe I am the one that did this. So it's being able to recognize when that ego is starting to step in and take over, and stepping back from it and saying, this is, not my credit to be taken. And there's a little bit of, there is some credit that does need to be taken, but it's not the credit that you did at all. The credit is, I created the space for you to do that for yourself. And that becomes more profound than you taking the credit for the healing or for the whatever. I see this even with friends. A friend calls up somebody else and says, I need advice, I need to figure out what to do with my marriage, and blah, blah, blah. And that's friend A. And friend B says, oh, well, you need to leave him, and you need to do all this, do. And that's ego speaking. But then if friend A goes and divorces her husband and does all these things, then this one, and it turns out great, then this one says, well, it's all because of me, because I gave her all that great advice. And that's all ego. Of course, if it's a disaster, then this one just really probably doesn't say much, because well, it wasn't my idea. I was just telling you what I thought. And that's all ego. So you've got to know when ego is really showing up. And it's also about being able to share space with others and allowing them to really fully step into their beingness. One of the things that we strongly believe at Gaia Wisdom is that everybody's on their own individual path. And we come here for lodge service so that we might be inspired to look at things maybe a little more openly. But we're never going to tell you what to believe or how to believe it or what you should be doing in your spiritual life. And so really this is just about community coming together and sharing our paths together and inspiring each other. It's not about me inspiring you guys or teaching you or preaching to you. It's more about me just kind of giving whatever's in my heart, whatever's coming from a download from me, and knowing that some of you will take a part of it, some of you will not take any of it, and some of you might take all of it. But it will be translated through your each individual paths and through your each individual heart spaces. And that looks differently for every person. And also recognizing your connection to everything. Being able to walk out there in nature or in the city or wherever you are and seeing yourself in everything. Everything is a mirror for you. So, earlier I was looking up at the top of the teepee, And I see this beautiful tree, but I also see all these spider webs. And my initial thought, because it was before the service, was, I wonder how I'm going to get the spider webs down. And then as I'm sitting here thinking about the soul shaman, I was like, why do I need to get spider webs down? That's their home up there. I don't need to do anything with that, because that would have been me stepping in. And so I look at that and say, okay, well, what cobwebs in my own life do I feel like I need to clean out? And why do they need to be cleaned out? Maybe they just are there to remind me of something or to teach me something. And maybe I'll get those cobwebs out at some point, but maybe I don't need to. And so you start looking at all these messages and all these gifts that are given to us here on this earthly domain, and really harnessing the energy of all of those and experiencing God in everything. You know, I experience God within the people that are around me, both good and bad. I experience God when I'm out in nature. You know, yesterday I went blackberry picking, and I ended up in the woods looking for mushrooms instead because it got too hot. I came home with a basket full of both. But it's being able to recognize God everywhere. And I was led to this beautiful tree. It was this humongous, I think it's an oak tree, but it was all gnarled and old. It looks like it's hundreds of years old, and which is uncommon in this area because this used to all be farmland hundreds of years ago. So this tree is obviously very, very old. It might even be like closer to 500 years old. So I walk over to this tree and I'm seeing God in this tree, and I see that it's so beautiful and magnificent. And then I start seeing mushrooms everywhere, and so I start looking at all the different mushrooms that are happening. You got one mushroom, and you got little babies that are just everywhere because there's this intricate root system that happens underneath the ground that we're not even aware of, and then life sprouts from those roots. And then I decided that I was going to forage some things, and I saw, I don't know if you guys know black cohosh, but it's a really beautiful herb that's used medicinally in a lot of different cultures. But so I dug up a root of the black cohosh, and when you look at the root, it's so, you know, it's messy because it's dirty. It's got all that earth in it and stuff, but it's got all these tentacles, and those tentacles branch off into other things. And then you start seeing all these little nodules of all the years where it has sprouted life. And this was this year's sprout. And so something that's underneath the ground and has so much intricacy to it, and so many stories, and so many, you know, years that this plant has actually flourished. And this is just one part of this root. It actually rooted, there's a huge canopy of them, and they're very, very beautiful plants. If you've ever seen them, they grow up and they have 3 prongs, and 3 is a very strong spiritual number. And then out of that is one stalk that goes way up, and it's got like one finger to God. And so I thought about this today, that this kind of represents the soul shaman, where you've got your roots and they're all deeply rooted into the earth, but you've got these little sprouts of life that come up in different places that you might not expect it. And then you've always got one finger going up into the sky to touch God. And then you've got the 3 branches of you that fan out and experience and touch all of the earth around you, all the life around you, and all the dirt around you. And so what's great about this root is that we will plant it here, and in years to come we'll get to watch it grow every year and sprout new life and new generations of that same life. And the other way of creating a balanced soul shaman is seeing the ordinary and the extraordinary as both expressions of God. So even in those ordinary moments where maybe you're paying your bills and, you know, it's something that none of us really like to do, but seeing the God in the moment, like you have the funds to be able to do that. You have power, electricity, you have water, you have all these things, that a house over your head, that you're using that energy exchange. So you're exchanging your energy for the energy that you're getting, and seeing God in that ordinary moment. And then, you know, it's very easy to see God in the extraordinary moments of seeing a beautiful rainbow, or we have 5 kittens that we rescued on the mountain last week. By the way, 3 of them need homes. But those kittens are a miracle. One in particular who found her way all the way down from the top of the mountain to our back porch after we had rescued her 4 siblings. She still found her way to us, and that was a miracle. And that was seeing God in that extraordinary moment of her showing up late at night meowing. There's lots of extraordinary moments around us, and there's lots of ordinary moments around us. So a soul shaman is somebody who sees God in all of that. And we're going to do a meditation today that's going to hopefully connect you into that soul shaman archetype for yourself, where you can connect with one of your spirit guides and still be rooted in this life. Before we do the meditation, though, I'd like to open it up to community time. And this is a time where it will not be filmed. It will not be added to the online recording. And then we'll turn it back on for the meditation. Okay, so we're going to do our meditation now. And, for the live services, we do quick meditations, and quick by meaning it's going to be like 10, 15 minutes. If you would ever like to experience 30 to 40 minute meditations, we've got a couple on our Shamanic Journeyers Club. You can always join Shamanic Journeyers Club to have access to some really powerful journeys that we take every single week. Every single week we upload a new one. And it's kind of we have an online global community that's very strong, and a whole forum for conversations and teachings and things like that. So this will give you a taste of the Shamanic Journeyers Club, but it will also give you, the added benefit of connecting with your spirit guides today. So let's go ahead and take in a deep breath. And just really bring yourself present. And I want you to imagine that you have roots right now coming out of you and sinking down into the earth, just like that black cohosh root. Feel how old those roots are. Not just this lifetime, but it's all the lifetimes, just like those little nodules. And then come up into your body and feel how that feels to be in this third dimensional space. That you have your arms and your legs and your torso and your head. That you can feel the air around you. You can feel the breeze. You have that tactile sensation. Feel how you experience this body in this lifetime. Now I want you to imagine a beautiful glowing golden cord growing up out of your crown chakra. Just like that finger to God in the black cohosh that I talked about, reaching up into the spiritual realms. It's almost like it's a plug. You see it plugging back in. I want you to feel the energy from the spiritual realm pouring into that conduit, into that plug, and coming down that channel, entering into your body, and then going into the roots. You can imagine it as a color or a feeling or liquid. Whatever is easiest for you to imagine. Now imagine yourself someplace in nature, maybe someplace you've been to before. Maybe it's just a place in your imagination that you want to revisit. And as you're experiencing this place in nature, you see one of your spirit guides coming to you. You might see them or feel them. You might sense them. But feel their presence. And acknowledge in some way the connection that you have to them. And they have a message for you that's going to help you on your soul path this time. What message did they share? Ask for any clarity that you might need. And I want you to thank them for their presence. And they leave you with a symbol, something to remind you that you are always connected. What symbol did they give you? Slowly bring yourself back into this space, into this time with their message and the symbol. But keep intact that conduit, that bridge between all three worlds, your roots, your body, your spiritual realms, keeping them all connected. Your soul seed for this week is to take time out each day to connect with Spirit and to your guides, and to really listen and feel for the messages that they have for you. And then apply them to your life. Sometimes, a lot of times, I see people who get all these great messages, but then they don't do anything with them. So take the messages and actually apply them to your life. And if you've been here around me long enough, you know that I always talk about the soul language, and how our soul language sometimes comes in sentences and sometimes comes in just words. And so you want to journal the messages that you get, because sometimes they're just pieces of a bigger message that you're going to be gaining over a period of time. So take all those messages over a week and see what you have. If it doesn't make sense to you at that time, it's probably just a piece of a message. So thank you for being here today. If you'd like to leave a love offering, we would greatly appreciate it. This helps us to continue doing this work for not only you guys, but for our online community and people around the world who may not be able to be here in person. And if you're online and would like to leave a donation, your energy would be greatly appreciated. And I've left a link in the details section where you can go and leave a donation if you would like. So we thank you for that as well. We're going to end today with our closing prayer, the Aho Mitakuye Oyasin. And you can stand or you can sit, but I would prefer, actually, I want you to sit, because I want your root chakra as close to the earth as you can, and that helps to keep us grounded. And I want you to really feel your feet on the earth, and also feel that connection that you still have from the meditation to the spirit realm. Aho Mitakuye Oyasin.
Aho Mitakuye Oyasin.
All my relations.
I honor you in the circle of life with me today, and I am grateful for this opportunity to acknowledge you in this Lakota prayer. To the Creator for the ultimate gift of life, I thank you. To the mineral nation that has built and maintained my bones and all foundations of life experience, I thank you. To the plant nation that sustains my organs and body and gives me healing herbs for sickness, I thank you. To the animal nation that feeds me from your own flesh and offers your loyal companionship in this walk of life, I thank you. To the human nation that shares my path as a soul upon the sacred wheel of earthly life, I thank you. To the spirit nation that guides me invisibly through the ups and downs of life, and for carrying the torch of light through the ages, I thank you. To the four winds of change and growth, I thank you. You are all my relations, my relatives, without whom I would not live. We are in the circle of life together, coexisting, codependent, and co-creating our destiny. One not more important than the other. One nation evolving from the other, and yet each dependent upon the one above and the one below. All of us a part of a great mystery. Thank you. Thank you for this life. Aho Mitakuye